Hey, Missy. Hey there.
Hi, Timmy.
How are you?
Doing fine. I would just listened to an hour of the MS listening thing.
Oh, bless you for that.
Yes, I just figure I'd rather know than not, and I'm not coming off the, you know, post-traumatic stress syndrome of the board. So,
Right, right.
I fully understand if you guys, what did Virginia tell me? She said it's going to be a year for me. I said,
Oh, that poor woman's going to need therapy.
no,
You
she
know?
really is, you know. Anyway, very happy to see you. Thank you, thank you, thank you for doing this. And
Well, of course.
the wines are showing great. Yay.
Yeah.
So
Okay.
we have quite a crowd, but we'll see how many actually show up.
Mhm.
And you know, I looked at all the technical stuff. There's no news other than the Chablis they have in Old Town is the Vieille Vigne, which has seen some neutral oak.
Mm.
So theirs may show, you know, differently, but the vintage is the same. And the other big diff is the Palazzino, it also in Chicago is a 2016. So it's got 2 years more bottle age. You've got an 18, I'm pretty sure.
Mm. Okay.
And I have something fun to show you. Are you ready? This is why I look
I'm
like
ready.
a little squirrel. You see this beautiful bruise?
Yeah. What happened?
I got a tooth pulled.
Oh,
It
no.
went fine, but it, you know, must
Okay.
have been from them pulling, right?
Yeah.
I didn't expect it. I was looking at it today going, did I like get makeup on my face, you know? But
Wow. When was
so
that?
that was Monday.
Oh, boy.
It went
Okay.
fine. You know, I was
Okay.
lucky. No biggie. What's new on your end? Anything?
Well, you know, just chipping away. I didn't do a lot of work on the project today because I just had too much stuff going on. And otherwise than that, that life goes on, you know.
I did have a conversation with Lee Mang myself yesterday, and
Yeah, how'd that go?
she's sort of brilliant and ADD at the same time. It's neat.
You think?
You know?
I think that the dirt bike with the stripped gears is a pretty good
It's
description.
perfect.
Yeah.
So, and she doesn't trip over her words, which is amazing.
No,
But
no.
they want evidently honor from the California Wine Institute questioned my selection of both Iron Horse and I forgot what the other one was, but I just justified it. And they want about another 5, and they want me
Okay.
to include Lee Mang tiptoed around this, Kendall Jackson family, which, okay, sure,
Okay, fine.
right,
Whatever.
you know, and they hire a bunch of MSs, love and kisses, yes. And
Yeah.
actually, they mentioned one that I wanted to do is Calera, and actually Calera was purchased by Duckhorn, which is.
Oh, I didn't know that.
Mhm.
Yeah, actually, I did know that. I did, I did read about that. Yeah.
And then I sent Wayne a message because I keep thinking I should do something from the South Central Coast, like Santa Barbara. And
Yeah. Well, that would have to be Sanford in terms of history.
so
You know,
that's an easy
Sanford's been,
fix. Mhm.
yeah, they're down, they've been down there for longer than anybody.
Are they
So,
still kicking out okay wine?
yeah, yeah, I think so.
Cool.
You know,
I was thinking
yeah,
Au Bon Climat, but I wasn't sure.
sure. You know, yeah, there's also Ojai too. Although he and Oban Klimat, I mean, they're friends and colleagues, so they're about the same time.
Right. Okay, good. So I'm not hallucinating. Great. And then I liked your
No, but
idea of Kenwood. I was
mm,
thinking, or Dry Creek, I was thinking, because he was the first to do Sauvignon Blanc, you know.
you know why I like Dry Creek is because, they're still family owned, you
That's
know,
true.
and I like their wines a lot. In
So
fact, their Fumé Blanc is one of Carla's favorite wines.
you just settled it for me. Thank you.
Okay.
So Dry Creek, Calera,
Yeah.
Sanford, right?
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
And I forgot, KJ, AKA Jackson.
Mm-hmm.
And I need a 5th one, so I'll meditate on it. Okay.
A 5th one from
From anywhere.
how long does a legacy have to be?
It doesn't. There's nobody will define this damn thing for me.
Well, what about Navarro then?
Well, that's what Evan was suggesting because I haven't done anyone from Mendocino.
Yeah.
Were they the first ones to sort of?
Well, not the first, but certainly the first most important one for sure.
Mm-hmm. It just didn't have a,
What about Fopiano? Evan and Li Ming would love that.
Oh, that's true.
Yeah.
You're right.
Yep.
I shall consider both, merci. Okay. So anyway, I'm completed to having fun tonight, and we'll try not to step
Yes.
on your sentences too much. And can you hear me okay? Cool.
Yeah. Can you
And
hear me?
yep, and I was actually going to I was going to ask you permission, but I decided against it to use both of our baby pictures at the end. But
Oh, that's cool by me.
can I do it?
Yeah.
You
Although,
know,
the one, yeah, use the one that I sent you with Carla's.
with Carla's.
I'll text you again.
Okay.
Yeah.
Because
Although, you could use the one with goggles. Come on.
I just thought it was too cool for words. I mean, seriously.
Oh, yeah. So in other words, not a lot
Uh,
has changed.
no, I mean,
The filters are
seriously.
better.
Oh my God. I told you the reason I adore mine,
Mm,
right? Is
mm. It
because
looks
I'm
like
the
the real for
same
Carla.
human being. Okay,
Yeah.
you're texting it to me, and I'm going
Well, no,
to,
I mean, you can use the one with goggles if you want.
well, oh, but text me what you're thinking of. I don't care. I think they're both
Okay.
really cool.
But that's the one I sent you and Peter, but I'll send it again.
Okay, send it to Plum, could you? Because I've got that open.
Well, I'm gonna,
It doesn't
frankly,
matter,
I'm
or
gonna text.
Gmail,
I'm gonna
whatever.
text it to
Oh,
you.
you're gonna text it. Great, perfect.
Yep.
And I'm going to try to find mine. Hold the boat. It's a
Like
joy
you
to
look
do
like a
these with.
good little
Mm,
crew-cutted Catholic twerp.
oh, totally. I got to hear about you and your brothers at some point in time.
Well, yeah, we need time.
Are they still alive?
My younger brother Ted is not. No,
Oh,
he
sorry to
and
hear that.
both my parents, they were smokers, and they all died within 2 years of lung cancer.
No kidding. Oh my
Yeah,
God.
yeah.
And
My brother Ted and my mom died within 30 days of each
you're
other.
kidding.
No, that was
Oh my
beginning of 2006.
God.
Yeah, that was hard.
That's bare. How old were you?
Well, my mom was, 79, but my brother Ted was only 48. You know, so that was
48
hard.
years old.
Yeah, yeah. He was about as different from me as possible.
I have to tell you, did I ever tell you I took Chantix for 6 months to make sure I'd never go back?
Oh wow.
You're only supposed to
Okay.
take it for 2 or 3, and my doctor said to me, "Don't. You're not going to get off it um, for 6 months because I don't want you to ever go back."
Hmm.
And oh my God, this one is so cute. This is the one with. Oh God,
You
totally.
choose.
I haven't seen this one before.
Oh yeah. Well then, yeah, I sent you and then I'll send you the picture of Carla that frankly, looks like you
Oh,
reading.
that's right. Wasn't she wearing? She was wearing a little outfit.
She's, reading the Sunday funny papers. You know,
Oh my God, she looks just like me. Seriously,
you guys are in the same tribe,
we're from the same tribe. How
the
tall
mighty
is
might
she?
tribe. Yeah. So I figured, we should turn running the world over to you guys, the mighty mites, but also Virgo women, just Virgo women in general.
No, I'm not
Because
Virgo. I'm like
yeah, but
wildly
I know I'm
Cancer as
saying that
opposed to Gemini. Right.
the two tribes would frankly take care of everything with no drama or maintenance. No, Kathleen Lewis is a Virgo,
Oh, no
and
kidding.
my sister Annie is a Virgo, and Maria is a Virgo, and at least 3 other women I know who are all maximum facilitators are Virgos. So
What's their character? What's the punchline of a Virgo?
the punchline is organization, get shit done, no drama. Uh, Tend to be a little obsessive about being clean, things being orderly. That's really the mainstay, is organizing and making things work. You know.
Well, I'm not one of them.
When's your birthday?
June 22nd, I'm Cancer on the cusp of Gemini. My birthday is
Oh,
one day away from Fred Dane. It's really frightening.
oh, dear God. Yeah. There's
Okay.
somebody I wonder if we'll ever see again. You know?
Oh, you know, there's a part of me that really feels bad for Fred, but a part of me that doesn't feel bad at all.
No, I don't. I mean, such hubris, and he was such a
Oh,
bully. And, yeah. So,
the only thing I blame us for is not having our 2020 vision on so we could see the effect it would have.
yeah, yeah. All
But
right. So, were
hey,
there any earth-shattering things today said
no,
by the public? No.
no, absolutely no.
Okay. Well, yeah,
Okay,
on principle, just refuse to take part in either one because I don't think it's the public's business.
right,
It would have been completely different had we had other members of the trade, which is what we need to do. Is we need to lead the industry.
right.
And I mean, the public, no. So, I mean,
Well,
what do they know about this?
they don't.
Yeah.
I think at the end of the day, why can't I get this bigger? Oh, here we go. At the end of the day, I think, they're pivoting, hard towards the opposite of not being forthcoming enough. And that's not a surprise,
Mm,
it's
yeah,
like an overcorrection.
yeah,
But as long as they don't put absurd shit into play,
yeah.
seriously,
Like bake sales.
yeah, right. They can be kumbaya all they want, and God bless Emily. She's got the right
Yeah,
personality to this thing. And Rob
yeah.
Bigelow was on, which was great.
Oh, he
And
was. Okay.
yep, and as long as they communicate with the bloody British before they change shit, and put us in a
Yep.
divorce position. So that's my next little letter to the board of directors from Pain in the Ass is two
Good.
things. Shane
Yeah.
again got on his thing about making the, business of the sommelier a lot more important. And I want to say, and then you'll get rid of half of the service people because
Right.
you don't need to write an essay to understand how to do cost of goods.
So Shane
And
was on.
Shane was on, Melissa was on,
Okay.
answering questions about the exam. For the most part, it was nicely done, but all these very inflammatory questions coming through in the Q&A. They had vetted some and some that they were answering in real time, but they were very straightforward about it. They handled it well. They weren't, defensive, which is an amazing thing, really.
Yeah. Yeah.
And I think it was Rob who just flat out answered the question, or just addressed the whole business that you cannot get through this exam based on sexual favors. I mean, he just,
Right.
went there.
Yeah.
But a
All
lot
right.
of
You know
talk.
what?
Yep.
10 minutes. I'm going to take a bio break.
Okay, I am too, and I'm gonna tell people right now in the chat room that I'm letting them in momentarily. Okay.
Okay.
All
Yep.
right, and we're gonna be on for an hour. Okay. Cool. Thank you.
Yep.
Hi, Jorge. I hope you can hear me. Hi, Denny.
Hey,
Thanks for being on. I always appreciate it.
oh my God, Jorge is on? Holy God.
Jorge's on. Dave Smith's in the waiting room. All is right with the world.
Oh no, there's some solid situation there.
Hi,
And
Marshall.
Hi, Jorge.
Hey, guys.
Hi, Marshall.
Tim, have you met Marshall? Let
I
me
have not
introduce you.
met Tim.
Marshall probably reads more about wine than you do.
I've read many an article by you. I'm honored to be able to meet you here.
And Marshall, hi, Jorge. Jorge's our wine team leader at, well, you've met Jorge before because you've
Yep,
heard you
I
speak
have.
at the store. But
He's helped me
Marshall
several
is
times.
an occasional wine team member.
Okay.
We're always happy to have him around, and he takes a lot of heat off me by answering questions in the chat room. If they're,
Is that my
something
assignment for tonight then?
well, it usually is, but you can always opine to Denny Walsh. Have you met Denny, Tim?
I don't think so. Hi, Dennis.
Hi, Tim, how are you?
Denny
good, how are
was the wine team leader at our West Bloomfield store, but now has an elevated role. Like me, he's a village elder, and he is beverage coordinator for Bloomfield and West Bloomfield. So,
That means I get to carry Madeline's bags to every tasting.
it means that if anything goes right, we get the credit, and if anything goes wrong, you get the blame.
Yeah.
I like it.
That sounds like home.
Yes. I think because my phone is saying 6:25, I'm going to let people in if that's okay with you and just chat with them. And Tim, we're going to do it Brady Bunch, but I'm going to advise them to do speaker view
Okay.
when we get around to it. And you're good with the 3 wines? We're cool?
Yep.
Great. And I think that Palazzino is just absurd. So is the Obsidian Ridge. Jorge, have you tasted the Obsidian Ridge? Oop, he walked away. All right, everyone's coming in. Hello, everyone. Just a reminder to keep yourselves on mute. We're going to give it about a few minutes before we start, but I thought instead of keeping you hanging out in the waiting room, you'd come and say hi. Hi, Nancy. A lot of familiar faces on tonight. I saw the guest list. Thrilled to have everybody.
We are in the middle of special coverage, watching and tracking this scene you see here, 6:25 p.m. in the Capitol.
Uh-oh. Somebody's got their TV on. Something was happening in the Capitol. Hopefully that was a replay and not happening in real time. And let's see. Hello, Dave. Nice to see you as always.
Oh, hello.
Hi, Allison. There, you've got at least 2 or 3 people on tonight, Tim, that have attended your, students.
Okay.
Your MS style seminars in Ann Arbor.
Okay.
Hi, Scott. What's your background? It looks very cool.
Oh, it's my backyard in Barbaresco.
Oh, excellent.
Nice.
I wish.
Yep.
How are you, Madeline? It's great to see you.
Oh, I'm doing great. Very nice to have your company. I was very happy to see your name on the guest list. Hello, Kristen.
Hi.
I'm happy to see you've still got some lights on. I still have lights around my windows because it cheers me up.
Need more light in this room.
Tim, Mike Pfeiffer's on also. Hi, Mike. Mike is the wine team leader at the other Ann Arbor store, and he's heard you speak as well.
Yeah.
We're at 30 and climbing, everyone. We had over 70 people register. We usually have a drop off that varies quantity wise. Robin and Norm, I have the wines in the chat room. Just page up to the top of it and you'll see them.
Okay, I'm looking, thank you.
So it's basically the Chablis, the Italian wine, and then the Cab.
Okay, thank you.
You're
That's
welcome.
easy.
That's easy, yes.
This is less, okay.
Jen, I'm very happy to see you. How are you and your beautiful how's you and your beautiful family doing?
We're wonderful. Thank you so much. It's great to see you.
Your little team is getting bigger.
Yes.
Hello to the Morovs. I need to see pictures of the grandchildren at some point
Okay,
in time.
just.
Okay, we will send pics for sure. I promise.
Hi, Howard. Okay.
Hello.
Robin, how are you?
Hi, how are you?
Tim, this is like old home week, you know.
I know, yeah.
Going on here.
It is. It really is.
Okay, we have
I
more
can see
people.
somebody pouring.
Yes, Diane.
Hi, Norman, Robin.
Hi there.
Both shepherds are here, yay.
Hello. How are you, Madeline?
I'm doing great. It's very nice to see you.
Thank you.
My only disappointment is that I can't see your glasses clearly enough because you always have the most stylish glasses.
Oh, thanks.
You can go ahead and pour your wines if you haven't already.
Well,
I have all of them. So does Tim. You can be jealous. And Tim, I have to tell you, I had a little panic attack. I couldn't remember if we could ship legally to New Mexico.
Well, you know, there's the Adobe curtain, so not everything is legal.
No, well, you know, we were going to do it anyway and call it olive oil, or I was going to, but I
Oh,
was
yeah.
happy that it's on our list.
Oh, good.
So
What's this
everyone
thing?
knows we ship to 19 states.
we had gotten
and I
these last week.
Oh, yeah.
Oh, yeah.
Are they-
still have people pouring in. This is
Peppers, I
great.
believe.
We're at,
Do I want to give you,
your
want me to
fan
give you
club's
anything?
showing
Yes.
up, Tim.
All right,
One of you
apparently I'm
guys.
supposed
to pour my wines already.
Everyone keep yourself muted unless you want to make a comment, in which case per usual, there's no wine police, you know. It would just be easier if we don't hear background noise. Andy, I'm thrilled to see you. Tim, Andy's going to wave at you. Tim, Andy knows more wine and on-premise people than you and I combined. And,
Oh, wow. Okay.
He's a very big deal at U of M's business school. And
Can you do it?
thrilled
Bill
to
Blue.
count him as a friend from my very early days as a sommelier, like ground zero, like age 21.
Like 1977.
1977, that was my first year. Everyone, we are at what, 6:31, but I'm going to give it a couple more minutes because we still have people, you know, coming in. We had around 70 people sign up and we are at almost 60 and still climbing, which is just great. You're not going to have any fall off tonight. Nobody's turning in their tickets at the door, Tim.
Cool.
Hi, Laura. Very happy to see you.
Hi. Hi, my love.
Hi, Madeline.
We've got two Sophias, Wibranowski and Humphrey. Very nice to see
Hi,
you
Laura.
both.
Hello. I invited some friends too. Hi, Maura.
How are you?
Good, thank you.
Open. I know.
When I took it off, it was blank.
Okay, I'm giving it another 2 minutes, if that's okay with everyone. Just pour the wine and start sipping it. It'll make you ask much better questions, right?
I'm gonna go downstairs and get the tacos.
Hello to the Rudens. Very nice to see you. Hello to the Nagels. Just a reminder, keep yourself muted unless you want to speak up specifically, in which case by all means do. Our friend Marshall is going to keep an eye on the chat room. And Marshall, if there's a question for me or Tim and we haven't seen it, will you speak up? And that includes interrupting us. If you
Sure,
think
be
it's a
happy
good
to.
one.
Okay, it's on.
Earbuds. Mike.
Okay.
Wrap it up. I need a book.
I suggest you all put it on speaker view so you can hear, especially Tim talking and me asking question that you wish you could ask. That's my mission tonight.
Wait, put on mute.
Rib or so on with moisture.
Okay, let's see. We are almost there.
Is it wet? Is it spongy? What's its quality?
Something spongy. Are you going to eat it? It sounds like, cake. We're going to have a full house, Tim, at 66 and climbing.
Excellent. That's great.
Okay, I get to have one more sip of wine. Not that I need cheering up, but the wines are showing like angels. At least I think so. I hope you're happy with them, Tim.
Yeah.
Okay, I think we're going to start. We have 66 friends on tonight. How cool is that? Hello, Kareem, very nice to see you. And I have forgotten to recognize anyone. I apologize, but it is a room of friends, which is wonderful. I'm thrilled to see you all. Our extraordinary times continue. But again, I have to tell you that the fellowship that's been created by you at the Plum Market Virtual Tastings is something that I don't take for granted for a second. I look forward to it. It's fulfilling. And I love the fact that nobody's in the back of the room, right? Everybody's in the front of the room, which is great. This is a very special tasting tonight. I'm selfishly calling on my dearest friends. And I count, some of you were in on the tasting with Evan Goldstein. Equally near to my heart is tonight's special guest, Tim Gaiser, who's joining us, as he loves to say, from behind the Adobe curtain, which is drumroll, New Mexico, right?
Yes, right.
Is your internet access okay, Tim?
No, but I want you to know, Maddie, that, New Mexico is one of the few states in the United States that actually has USA after New Mexico, because so many people don't know where it is.
Come on. Seriously?
No, that's true.
Oh, they think it's Mexico.
True. Yes, or who knows where. Yeah.
Oh, too funny. Well, education is going to be, fulfilling this next hour. Tim and I have known each other. I don't even know the year we met, so you're going to have to remind us both. What year did we meet? I was your examiner at the Master Sommelier practical.
Yeah, next month it'll be 30 years, because the first time I took the Master Sommelier exam was in March of 1994.
TCE?
Hold on just a sec.
Robin,
Robin, you need to mute. I think Lena, you need to mute. I'm calling you out only so that you're aware. Just everybody check their mute, because otherwise we'll hear you chewing on potato chips and listening to the news, which is okay with us.
Which is hilarious.
Sorry, anyway, rookie move.
It's okay.
All right, so Maddie, it'll be 30 years next month, because I took the master's exam in March of 1991 for the first time.
The Lobatzas need to mute. If you could put your mute on, thank you. Sorry. So you took it the first time, what year?
In March of 1991.
March of 1991.
And I passed the theory, and I passed the service.
That's good, honey.
And you were on my service panel.
It'll be okay.
So,
I remember that very clear. Was that the first time we met?
yes.
What can I do for you?
Everyone, we're going to take 15 full seconds for everyone to look at your screen and make sure you're muted.
Really good. I just wanted to say, I'm sorry, this is Lena.
No.
Yeah, you can self-mute us. I just wanted to let you know as the host.
Put this on your side.
Yes, here we go. And Tim, you can unmute yourself. Sorry about that. I didn't realize I could do that. Thank you for.
There you go. Cool. Thanks, Lena. Okay.
Thank you.
So yeah, March 1991, you, Brian, Julian, and Chuck Ferruia were my service panel. And, afterwards at the dinner that night, you came up to me and you said, "You did such a good job, but don't you ever smile?" and I almost said, yeah, I was about to have a wardrobe malfunction, for God's sake. I was so freaked out. Anyway, so that's the first time we met. Yeah.
No, I just remember I loved your service and I thought this man is so serious, and I have to admit to you, I think that was the first time I was the chairman of a practical panel.
Oh, wow.
So,
No pressure.
no,
Good, Brian.
but you know what? I recognize quality when I see it.
Okay, well, thanks.
So Tim and I have been on many, actually literally countless examination panels together. And also participate occasionally on other professional, projects, especially dealing with Master the World, which we've talked about before. A really cool thing to check out. It's a new tasting platform that's spectacular. That our friend
Madeline, one thing we need to talk about, I just want to say this before I forget, is that, there's a serious Michigan connection here, right? Because I went to graduate school at U of M, from 81 through 83, and I got a master's degree in all things classical trumpet. So, and not only that, my daughter Maria, who you know well and who loves you to pieces, works for the school now, and she got her master's in public health, and she and her fiance Will both work for University of Michigan as we speak. Yeah, so big time Michigan connection.
I will not let this affect my sense of self-esteem because I was an Ann Arbor hippie way back when, but I will tell you that I managed to spend 5 years in Ann Arbor and not get a degree. I was one semester short from a degree, but those were the days when I was so stubborn. I didn't want my father to pay my tuition, so I would take semesters off to work, right? And plus I was studying theater just to keep me in school before I dragged myself to medical school or law school. But here I am.
There you are.
Here I am, but we have the U of M connection and we have the Ann Arbor connection. You know what's really cool about tonight? You and I have never done, I don't think, a consumer project before together.
No.
And I think I've admitted this to you. I love them a lot more than I love us or wine.
And that's saying quite a lot.
No, because I spent, the lion's share of my career on the floor of restaurants. And I managed to parlay my relationship with Plum Market into one where I'm always dealing with I call them guests. I can't even call them customers or clients. They're my guests. And looking at things through the eyes of the people who are with us tonight is my idea of a good time, and it sets my priorities straight. So I have to tell everybody when we were planning this, Tim said, we should do this like a Larry King interview. And I thought, okay. I'm not entirely sure what that means, other than the fact I know Larry King never read the books of the authors he was interviewing. And he would say, because he wanted to ask the questions his viewers wanted to ask. And I thought that was brilliant. So I am asking the quote unquote stupid questions that you've been harboring in your hearts. And I'm going to elevate them because I think they're hugely important.
Okay.
But I have to give a 10-second view of your bio because it's very cool, and I'm going to email it to all of you because he's got a very beautiful picture on it as well. But Tim mentioned his master's in classical music. He also played with the San Francisco Opera Orchestra, which I think is really cool. In terms of his wine life, he was, and I really gulp when I say this. You were the director of education for what? Almost 10 years, weren't you?
9 years.
9 years, which is staggering. This is the guy who set the tone for all our educational programs, which means, the standards, right, and content. And he is a professional educator. I'm not. I'm a professional sandbox person. I'm always in the sandbox with you. That's
never
where
underestimate the sandbox.
No, the sandbox. The older I get, to realize not everyone can play in the sandbox, right?
That's true.
Not everyone can play in the sandbox. And the other thing that I love about you, Tim, is that you have experience in online, wholesale, retail, winery, and restaurant. I remember you serving me a bottle of Jay's sparkling wine in San Francisco at the Cypress Club. I remember when you were working for Heights. I
Yep.
deeply remember when you were with Virtual Vineyards, the originalwine.com with staggering selection. Tim writes a lot. We're going to talk about his book later because he's coming out with the book on tasting. And I get 10 seconds of credit for nudging him to write it for
you do.
consumers. Yes. And, but really, I think it's fair to say that what drives you, if there's a passion to you that I've seen when you will occasionally, raise your voice and your eyebrows, it's in helping people educate themselves and, not scare themselves to death, especially when it comes to taking tasting exams. But that said, we're just going to play tonight. We haven't overthought this, so keep the chat room questions coming. And Tim, you can pick up the first glass whenever you feel like it. And I'll chime in, but I do have my first Larry King question. Larry King question. Why did you go into wine instead of music professionally?
Well, it's it's one of those well thought out career, paths and moves. So, like everybody, Carla and I, of course, we lived in Ann Arbor from 81 to the end of 83. We moved to the Bay Area in January of 84. At the time, we lived in San Mateo for about 9 months, then moved to the city in October of 84. And by then I was already, studying with a guy, Jim Miller, who was principal trumpet in the opera orchestra. And then he, over time, started to get me work. And I played about 24 productions with the opera and then their training orchestra for, literally into 1988. But, professional musician, the most money I ever made playing the trumpet was 1987. And probably did, 5 or 6 productions with the opera orchestra. I played for the Pope,
Go away.
And,
Wow.
I did. And the Pope Mobile and everything. Yeah. And so, but I made $17,000 from playing that year, which, it didn't cut it even in 1987. So I was dragged kicking and screaming back into bartending, and bartending led to wine buying, led to being a floor sommelier. And then, I was hired to open the Cypress Club. You mentioned that, and help run the wine program. And the owner, John Cunin, who was a friend, said, you ought to get your Master Sommelier. Like, you ought to go to Target and pick up a few things. And I had no idea. But what I did have was 7 years of college, like down the drain, way too much academia. And my undergraduate degree was music history. So I had studied the most arcane, obscure stuff unimaginable. And that meant that the wine theory for the entire MS program was like, it was no big deal.
Nothing.
It wasn't.
Oh, well,
yeah. And also, I was
you're
working
verging on obnoxious with this. That you're talking
Huh?
to someone who does not have total recall. So for me to remember stuff is very hard, but I will tell you, and I'm going to segue, that the blind tasting, I understood it from the get-go. It was simply testing my experience. I got this. And for some, and also the practical, I just pretended I was on the floor of the London Chop House with customers from hell on Saturday night, and I relaxed.
That's it. Yeah. No, but unlike you, the tasting was the most monumentally difficult thing I've ever had to figure out. I just, I grew up in a household, in the 60s with parents who drank nothing but bourbon and Coke. And I didn't really get introduced to wine until I was 26, 27 in Ann Arbor at the Earl Restaurant, because that's where Carla worked.
Yeah.
And I worked there for a bit too. Love Steve Goldberg, And so for me, it was really, really late. But, the tasting thing was the hardest thing I've ever had to figure out, And I've been thinking about it ever since.
And you're going to share it on, well, actually, Tim has a killer blog. If y'all go online, all y'all, and look Tim Gaiser, but he's going to put it in a book some big time this year, correct?
Yes, that's good.
So I'm going to make us both pick up wine number 1.
Sure.
But I will tell you, whether you answer it with this wine or any of the other 2 wines, the question I get most often is what, quote unquote, what in parentheses, the hell am I looking for?
Okay. Well, that's a curious way to put it. But, there's 2 things I think consumers, there's a big disconnect. And there's 2 things consumers don't know. And as a matter of fact, the blog post I put online today is called Glassware Stance, and it's literally how to pick up a glass and what to do it and how to smell. Okay, that's one thing. So that's a process maybe we should do real quickly. And the other thing is that human beings, over 90% of us are visual dominant internally. And that means we think in pictures and movies all the time. And the disconnect about learning about wine when people consider smell and taste is they think it's somehow different, when in fact, internally, smell and taste are visual. In fact, we don't recognize what something smells like or tastes like if we can't make a picture of it first. And so those are two disconnects. So can I show everybody important things about?
Okay. C-spot run.
So
yes.
Okay, so I'm going to back up a little bit. So important thing, everybody, is first of all, notice we have nice glasses. Maddie, I'm using the Stolzo glasses that you had sent to me.
The plum glasses. Do you like them?
Yeah, I do. They're very nice. Okay, so the first thing is that the angle of the glass, you got to find the right one. Okay, so if you do this, you can't smell anything. That's how Homer Simpson would smell wine. You need to put the glass at least up 45 degrees. Yeah. Okay. All right. The second thing is most of the human race, they stick the glass on their upper lip and they smell through their nose. And there are two kinds of smell. There's orthonasal, which is your nasal cavities, but there's also retronasal, which is your entire oral cavity, right? And usually when you're smelling things, if it's not wine, you're using both in tandem, right? So the way I smell wine is literally I pull the glass away about half an inch and I open my mouth and I breathe in and out, because you got to breathe out. And I breathe in gently at the same time through mouth and nose, okay? So notice that the glass is pretty far away, all right? And not everybody's able to do it, but I urge you to try it. Can you do it? Because, for some people, it's like the angels singing and, the choir and the whole enchilada, okay? I would also say if you're smelling or tasting fortified wine or spirits, you need to do this because the alcohol overwhelms your nose, okay? So that's it. There's an angle of the glass. It's smelling, short, gentle sniffs. And then the last thing is, and this is really esoteric, but eye positions and tasting are a big deal.
No, this is a big thing for you. Go for it. Tell them everything. Mm-hmm.
Well, in behavioral psychology, there's something called eye accessing cues or vertical and lateral eye movements. And that's literally our eyes habitually going to the same places to use sense memory, right? So, visual is looking up, auditory is horizon, and kinesthetic, or when you talk to yourself, and hopefully there's only one voice in your head at a time, because otherwise we have sock puppets, and look, I have a sock puppet right here. It's when I'm having an argument with myself. Anyway, so, but we look down and, digital audio, which is what it's called when you talk to yourself, is down left. And over years of watching thousands of students and professionals smell and taste, when they put a glass up to their face, they look down. Almost no one looks up. Very few people look horizon. They're all looking down. And what they're doing is they're going into a zone so they can really shut everything out and they can really focus.
I close my eyes. Does that make me weird? I mean, I always close my eyes.
Okay, so yeah, and many people do, but when you open your eyes, where are you looking?
Down. Mm-hmm.
You're looking down. Okay. So everybody, you can try this. I mean, if you smell wine and you keep smelling and you roll your eyes up as high as they go, most people, their sense of smell stops.
Whoa.
And that has something to do with your vagus nerve. Yeah. So
this is the guy who's writing the book and who has a master's degree. So forgive me for never going there, everyone. Cool.
So just try, if you go to my blog, I explain how to do all this today. Okay. Cool. So that's the first thing we can talk about. The next thing we can talk about is that Chablis, and, the wine professionals like us, we love Chablis,
Why do we love Chablis? I'm going to pull up the little thing right now so we can stare.
Yeah. I think it's because, for many reasons, as time goes on and as a professional, you taste thousands of wines. Mm-hmm. This is definitely a wine that comes from only a certain place. And it's actually very narrowly defined in terms of what it smells and tastes like, but the imprint of the place in terms of the chalky or limestone qualities to it, the minerally qualities are extreme. And it's also very acidic. I think as time goes on, the more wines that you taste, the more that we like really high acid wines.
So, you know, you mentioned mineral, and by the way, I'm segueing from one little second. Oops, hold on. I have to let a couple of people in. Come on in, Joe and Bill. Okay. First of all, Chicago's with us tonight. Yay. The Michigan folk have the wine on the left, Francine and Olivier Savary Chablis, and you all should have the 2019. The one on the right, the vintage is wrong. They have the 19 as well, but there's a Sélection Vieille Vigne, which means old vines. Same
Yep.
producer, if you look at the very bottom, Francine and Olivier Savary. So, you know, while I show them pictures for one sec, these are their sons. Olivier and Francine had Maxime and Mathieu. Aren't they beautiful young men?
Yes.
And they are now gently taking over the property. Look at that cellar killer. And this is the Expanse. This is gorgeous old building that's been beautifully restored, hasn't it, Tim?
Mm-hmm.
And
Madeline, look at the parking lot. Go back, look at the parking lot.
Right.
I mean,
Welcome.
it's white.
Yes.
That's the soil.
That's the
That's
soil.
what it looks like.
Oh, talk about that real quick and tell us what the hell this minerality thing is.
Chalk and limestone. So everybody, at least what science knows right now, is that when we talk about things like earth and mineral, we are talking about how the microbiome, literally the yeast population and bacteria and flora and fauna, and how that affects fermentation, right? And certainly, you know, the microbiome in a soil can range anywhere from 400 to over 1,300 species of little critters, right? And that affects fermentation, and it's different from place to place, which is why this doesn't taste like Rombauer. One of the many reasons it doesn't. And there's nothing wrong with Rombauer, but it's just that's why Chablis tastes like Chablis, and you really can't pull that off anywhere else. It's the soil. And also it's a very cool/cold climate. And these wines, this one in particular is not oak, so it's very transparent, and all you're getting is very tart fruit, acid, and this really intense stamp of minerality. You know, here in New Mexico in the summer, it gets pretty hot, right? There's usually a week or 10 days out of the summer that's over 100 degrees. It's not Phoenix or Las Vegas, thank God. But the amazing thing is, and if you've ever been to New Mexico, big sky, huge sky. That's what I love about this place. And you can see thunderstorms coming. And as they get nearer, you smell ozone from the clouds first. And then as soon as the rain hits really hot rocks and dirt, you smell what's called petrichor. And everybody knows it. It's the smell of rain hitting the ground on a hot day. And that chemical compound ends up in wine as well.
What is, name the chemical compound again?
Fancy word, everybody, petrichor, Petrichor, petrichor.
Everyone, I wrote it down, you know, so I'm the one learning here too. But I always think of, like, you know, river rocks or when it rains on slate. Yeah. But everybody knows that smell, and what you just said, that smell of the ozone right before the rain hits.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm. So what you mentioned oaky too. So tell us what is oaky versus unoaky? How do you define that?
Well, oaky, you know, certainly we're not smelling wood because wood doesn't smell anything, but if you toast it or caramelize it, you know, you're going to get the whole subset of aromas and flavors. And I'm sure most people who are tuning in know it, you know, you get vanilla from the vanillin, which is part of the wood structure. And then you get any host of things like baking spices and coffee and tea and chocolate and cocoa and, you know, things like that. So, and, you know, it's really, we say, you know, there's a lot of white wines in Europe, especially where historically they never used oak because A, it wasn't available, and B, they couldn't afford it.
They couldn't afford it. Now, are oaky and buttery the same thing? Because I get this question a lot.
No, they're not. So buttery, of course, and here we got to get a little geeky. So everybody knows if you got grape juice and yeast, it's going to ferment, and that's going to give you alcohol. Yeah, but you've also got bacteria in the environment, and that's going to create a secondary process that's called malolactic conversion or fermentation. And malo and lactic are two kinds of acid that are naturally in wine. And malic acid is like this Chablis. It's really sour. And lactic acid is like yogurt. And so you have a bacterial that starts a process converting a lot of this really sour, hard acid into a creamier, richer acid. And a byproduct of that process is diacetyl or diacetyl, which smells like buttered popcorn.
Buttered popcorn. Right. Now,
Yeah.
tell me, are like acidic, tart, and dry all the same thing? I mean, some people might, I had to show you this picture because it was really cool. Manual
No, that's
harvest,
cool.
you know.
Yeah.
And we're talking Chardonnay, everybody. I love to overstate the obvious. This is quintessential unoaked Chardonnay. And I got to tell you, Tim, I put my nose in the glass and it just smelled. I have at least 1 or 2 bus pears a day, and that's what this puppy smells like
Yeah.
golden apples and pears. So tell us about the tart versus dry versus acidic thing. And if it's too tart for some people, what can they do to mitigate that?
Yeah. Okay. So first thing, back up just a little bit and say what we're talking about here, everybody, is what we wine geeks call structure. Okay. So structure are chemically the important parts of the wine, and acidity is one, and that makes things sour, right? It's like lemons are very acidic and they're really sour. One thing is alcohol, right? Which gives a wine richness. And if you have a lot of alcohol in wine, odds are the fruit that they use to make it, the grapes, got really ripe. So you've got really ripe fruit. Next, you've also got sugar. So you've got sugar that could be left over from fermentation. And there's a whole host of reasons why. But, dry wines means that the yeast did their job and they fermented all the sugar and it's gone. That is not to say you have a lot of wines that are absolutely delightful that have a little bit of residual sugar or maybe even more. And German Riesling is my favorite white wine. And many of those wines traditionally have a little sweetness. Okay, and then the last component of structure, and we'll get to it in the other 2 wines, the red wines, is tannin. And tannin is tannic acid. That comes from the grapes and the skins. Tannin is, if you start to brew a cup of tea, you get a phone call and you walk away, come back about 20 minutes later, take a sip.
That's tannin, yes.
Unbelievably bitter. And not only that, it tastes bitter and it's astringent. It tastes gritty. So that is tannin. But tannin's important because it's a preservative and it gives a wine balance and structure, because if red wine doesn't have it, it has no potential to age whatsoever.
One final question before we move away from this Chablis. We always hear, especially California producers, brag about extended lees contact. And this is seen lees contact. What are they telling us? And by the way, if it does taste too tart for anyone out there, the Greek will tell you, you just need a little olive oil on a piece of bread with some salt. Perfect. Or a piece of cheese. So tell us about lees.
Well, lees, that is, the leftovers of yeast that are dying or dead. And it's this silty like substance, that you've got in a tank or barrel of wine. And obviously there's still a lot of chemically what's going on. And so you would leave wine, especially white wine, in contact with it. And it's going to add richness and texture to the wine of some flavors, yeast in wine like this. You can smell yeast. It smells like, brioche or bread dough or just yeast.
Like croissant or something like that.
Yeah.
Right.
Yeah.
Yes.
Yeah. But
so what's your favorite, I'm cutting you off. I'm sorry, because I want to ask you what your favorite food with something like this is that manages to soften the acidity, because acid likes acid too, right? If you have something tart, it can make it taste softer.
Well, this, anything, a composed salad that has a vinaigrette,
right?
Because so you've got, a piece of salmon or maybe a sauteed piece of chicken or something like that, and a salmon. And then I use rice wine vinegar too, or just rice vinegar, I should say. Something not, something because, sherry vinegar and white wine vinegar, et cetera, it's just so acidic, it's just insane. And that really kills wine. So rice wine vinegar, rice vinegar with this. That would be perfect. So something.
Or the Greek will tell you lemon, olive oil and lemon.
Yes, I was just going to say. Absolutely.
Right.
A squeeze of lemon over, sauteed salmon.
And it'll make it taste softer, correct?
Yeah.
But yeah. I will. Before we pivot away from this wine, I love to get on my soapbox about white wine and cheese, because it's just a much safer bet and much easier pair than red wine with cheese. Tim, are you with me on this one?
Absolutely. Yeah,
Cool.
absolutely.
Okay, we got to do the Chianti. Yay.
Okay.
So this is, you told me that you actually were hip to this producer from your wine.com days. Tell me.
Virtual Vineyard.
Yeah.
Yeah, this is a Marco di Grazia import, I believe, and I was buying this for Virtual Vineyards in 1997, I think, 98. Yeah,
Which became wine.com, correct?
yeah, the original wine.com. Yeah. So, and we do need to
Or
mention
why?
that's our dear friend and colleague Peter Granoff who developed that.
I don't know. Uh-oh, somebody needs to mute themselves.
Showbox, that's what people use to.
CT needs to mute themselves. So I experienced this wine. I'm going to show you my pictures because, hold on, if I can get everyone, check your mute button because somebody's off mute. I was lucky enough to visit this property. And I got to tell you, I totally fell in love because I am going to make you feel slightly jealous for just 1 second. It does, Tim has traveled a lot more than I have. He's tasted a lot more like dead cool wine than I have. But here we are. Whoever is CT needs to mute themselves because I hear background noise. I was lucky enough to visit this property with Jano di Grazia, and that is one of the two di Grazia brothers. And they were cool enough to open an old bottle, a Magnum of 1998 Chianti Classico Reserva. And it was one of the best bottles of wine I've ever had, with no argument, the best Sangiovese I've ever had.
Yeah.
And I actually tried to get it. I was willing to pay big money to bring it to the Master Sommelier Symposium. And they couldn't find another bottle to sell me. I would have paid well over $100 for it. It was that good.
Sure.
And but it taught me how good Sangiovese can be. So I'm showing you these pictures because everyone, there's somebody who's not on mute. Check your computers. Oops, oh, hold on, I forgot. I can go to, hold on just 1 second. I forgot I can mute everyone, oh, I did it. Yes, I apologize. Tim, you'll have to unmute yourself. I'm gonna learn how to do this one of these centuries. Okay. So I'm showing you, this is what you're drinking, the Rosso del Palazzino, and Chicago has 2016 and Michigan has 2018. Don't be jealous, Michigan. They just are behind in their vintage movement in Chicago. This is the wine I had, their Chianti Classico Reserva Grosso Sanese, that was 100% Sangiovese. And they used to distribute it as a Super Tuscan, and that's what I had in the Magnum. And we have that in our stores, as well as this wine. I think one of the two Ann Arbor stores has this. This is their mid-range wine, a Chianti Classico that I haven't had, but Jorge and Mike from Ann Arbor were telling me it's staggering for the money. The short story is, and I don't think you'll disagree with me, Tim, this is family owned and operated, small producer. They become organic, working towards biodynamic. And they combine a mature father who is shepherding his young, kind of off the leash son, who whispered to me that my father let me buy this amphora and it was really expensive, right? And he's making all of this sort of cutting edge stuff. Acero means it means zero. So zero sulfur. So he's making, quote unquote, natural wine, another cool subject. But this is what the father made. These are the Caratelli making Vinsanto. This is the Magnum I had of 1988, Grosso Sanese, never to be repeated. They called this the Mr. Peanut label, which was their older label of.
That's great.
Yep, and this is the father, Alessandro, the son, Eduardo, and this is Yano de Grazia, the importer. And there's me in the middle, yay. So,
That's great.
so tell us what you're perceiving in this cool, inexpensive rockin' Sangiovese.
Well, the first thing, we just have to state the obvious, and everybody, we can hope and dream to a post-COVID world where we can travel again and actually see each other and not, go to restaurants and things like that. But, some of my fondest travel memories are Tuscany, because, it's, for me, it's history, it's art, it's incredible food and wine. And, if you have a glass of this in hand and you're not happy and you're in Tuscany, you have issues. Okay. I just want you to know that. Anyway.
What kind of issues do we have?
You have behavioral issues. That's what you have. Okay.
Somebody asked a great question. Why aren't we drinking Chianti? And I was going to type this, but I'm just going to answer it. We're not drinking Chianti because this is the least expensive wine from a great producer, which to me is the punchline and how you get wines that are staggering values. This is $15 in Chicago and $14 in Michigan.
Yeah. It's great value. And, to Madeline's point, finding declassified wine like this from a really great producer is probably one of the best ways to find a value in wine. In terms of what I smell and taste, Sangiovese is the major grape here. It is a thinner skinned grape that grows in more moderate climates versus the last wine we'll taste, which is a Cabernet from Lake County. And so it is red fruit dominant, things that are sour. And for me, that's sour cherry, cranberry, rhubarb, pomegranate, things like that. And it smells like that, but it's also very savory. So there's some dried rose petal, there is star anise, there's some bitter herb, and there is a slight mushroomy, earthy quality. And then the wood here is very, very minimal, if at all. But
I have to interrupt you to tell everyone, if you don't smell what Tim's smelling, you're not alone. Because usually don't worry about it. This is what someone who is a phenomenally practiced taster, Tim specializes in perceiving and defining. I have to say this out loud because frankly, my descriptions are usually simpler than his. And I mean this with no false modesty. I can hang with him.
Yeah. Yes, you can. But everybody, the thing about this is this wine, even for its modest title, is totally grown up drink. Okay. So it is bone dry. It is very acidic. And, it's for, the weight of the wine and the color, it's a little tannic. So notice, and I'll just point out something, everybody, if you take a sip of the wine and swallow it, wow. Salivary glands, the acid is pretty high for a red wine, but also there's tannin in the front of the mouth and in the back.
How do you perceive it? What does tannin feel like, Tim?
Well, tannins they're astringent and they taste bitter, Think about endive or radicchio or what else is bitter? Licorice, especially black licorice. But the tannins in the front of the mouth are grape tannins, and the tannins in the back are usually oak tannins. And this wine, for its weight, is very deceptive. So it needs food, Now,
what does food do to it, and what kind of food specifically?
Well, for what you're trying to do is you're trying to match something that has fat and protein and salt, probably. The three evil dwarves, right? So, and that might be something as simple as an aged cheese, like Asiago or Parmesan or something like that. In terms of, I think regular food, those of you who have been to Florence, and the bistecca fiorentina is, a very thick T-bone steak that is like grilled and almost raw in the middle. And then, they use really good salt and pepper. So there you have that trio that you need with a really acidic tannic wine.
What Tim said, just to remind us, I like to overstate the obvious. That's my role. Protein, salt, and fat will, remember we talked about the bitter tea? You dump a little cream in it and it neutralizes that bitterness. That's what protein, salt, and fat do to the tannin. But I want you to know, I wrote this down. I've been listening to him for, going on 40 years now. And I still, because I never learned this at the beginning of my tasting journey, I learned with no mentors, damn it. I had the wine.
That's
Wine
amazing.
was a good mentor. But,
Yeah.
the whole issue of grape tannin versus oak tannin, you may have missed this, so let me pull this home, is that
Yeah.
tannin, that bitterness can come from the skin of the grapes, but it can also come from wood. The effect is the same, but where you perceive it in the palate is different. Did I get that right, Tim?
Yes.
Very good.
Yeah. And I'm reading Jorge's comment. He said an unripe banana is very tannic, and he's right.
I didn't know
It's
that.
really tannic. Yeah.
So
So-
before we move away to a New World Cabernet Sauvignon, I got to ask this question because this is the second question I get. That's the whole
Okay.
old world, new world thing that
Yeah.
I refuse to say somms. We sommeliers or wine professionals like to use, village elders again, right?
Yeah.
So our earthiness, what is the difference between old world and new world? And if it has to do, if you're going to go back to earthiness, are earthiness and funkiness the same thing? People have a hard
Well,
time perceiving it.
they're interrelated, and they are part of the same spectrum. So earthiness is what it is. Funkiness is usually Brettanomyces, which is a yeast that comes from vineyard soils that gets into a winery, and it makes things smell savory, leathery.
Leathery.
barnyardy.
That's the thing that smells a little
Yeah.
bit like sweaty horse or leather. Is that
Yes.
correct?
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah. But then it can get really extreme. So yeah, and that's what
Yeah.
we don't like.
Now, what do we smell here? This is not just fruity. How would you define the earthiness in this?
Well, this funny is this to me is not that fruity. The what the Brits call the savory. So things other than fruit. For me, there's anise, there is leather, and here I think that's from older oak. There's bitter herbs like radicchio and bitter green herbs. There's a chalky dustiness, and maybe a little bit of forest floor. But on the palate, it even tastes chalky.
No, but what you just said too, and I really relate to this because it's such a simple association, like the association of rain on rocks for the Chablis. That dustiness, which everyone can understand, dried earth, right? I find that Sangiovese usually has that, but also right behind it, and I don't know if y'all caught it, but there is somebody's talking about football in the chat room. I love it. I know a quarterback is football, right? Not soccer.
Yes.
That's how evolved I am. But you mentioned dried fruit, and you also mentioned tart fruit. So you have that wonderful combination of like tart cherries or pomegranates, but you also, it smells like we're from Michigan. If you can imagine the fragrance of dried cherries or translate that to the flavor of it. And I think
it reminds me of craisins. So the dried cranberries that you used to give your kids for lunches in little packages. That's what it reminds me of.
Can you really quickly, before we pivot away to the cab on this, what I find with Sangiovese, and this is more of a sort of a tell for me if I'm trying to counsel someone how to identify it, which we're not playing that game tonight, but I find that Sangiovese has this beautiful balance between tart and drying. Do you agree with that, between the acid
Absolutely.
and the tannin?
Yeah. And Sangiovese behind Pinot Noir is probably most of the time my second favorite red grape. Because
what's your first favorite?
Pinot Noir.
Okay.
But it has in Tuscany, it has so many different expressions, and they're just glorious. And for the money, there's some of the great values in European red wine, like this one.
What happens when if we're in Tuscany and we can do tomato sauce with this, because tomato sauce is tricky, right? Does it work?
Well, we can do it because tomatoes are incredibly acidic.
Cha-ching.
They really are. Yeah.
So then it will have the effect, much like the Chablis, with the squeeze of lemon, the salmon. If you have, let's say you're having a margarita pizza, right, in Florence, what a delicious thought, right? You're going to have two of them, not one, because one won't be enough.
Yes.
But you have sweetness, which can flatten red wine, but you have that beautiful tartness that will make the wine taste softer, right?
Absolutely. Yep.
Are you happy with this wine, Tim? How's it tasting to you?
I'm thrilled with it. I really am.
$15
Wow.
in
I
Michigan.
know.
We ship to New Mexico, right? So we're going to Cabernet Sauvignon. We had to do Cabernet Sauvignon because we all love Cabernet. Half of the time, I don't think we know why, but there it is. It looks good. It feels good. It's mouth-filling. But this is not your average Cabernet, right?
Yeah. No. And speaking of value, this is one of the great values in California Cabernet that not a lot of people know about.
I was turned on to this by a gentleman who's on our wine team. You may not have met him. Well, those of you who were attending the tastings at our downtown Detroit store before we had to sort of put it on hiatus until all the businesses opened downtown. Travis Reeves was the wine team leader there, and he's now working our e-commerce division. So if you get cunning great deals via email, that's through Travis. And Travis introduced me to this wine, Obsidian Ridge, and it just stopped me in my tracks. So you have been here, Tim, or you've been to the Red Hills in Lake County? Can you tell us?
Several years ago, I did a project with Wines of Lake County and went to many of the properties. And I know Peter Molinar, owner of Obsidian Ridge, and he's been up there longer than just about anybody. He's been up there for almost 30 years.
Oh, I have to show where we are because this is not Napa, correct?
No.
Hold the boat.
Although it's not that far away, it's an hour's drive.
So here we are, and here, I love Wine Follies maps. This is the North Coast, right north of San Francisco, with Sonoma on the coast and Napa inland. And this is Lake County right here. You can see that little blue spot. And then pivot over here, here we are. And these are the Red Hills of Lake County, which are volcanic, correct?
Right. Absolutely. In fact, the soils here, and I wish I should have sent you some pictures. The soils are, about as bright reddish orange as the spot on the map. They're literally reddish orange.
Whoa, go away. And here, I love this map. This is from their website. So here's the lovely Pacific Ocean, San Francisco Bay. I love pounding home that Sonoma hugs the coast. The Mayakama separates Sonoma from Napa. There's Napa, where rattlesnakes, abound in the summertime because there's no, it's hotter up here than it is down there, right? And if you keep tromping up the Mayacamas, you come to Obsidian Ridge. And they're what? Oh, they tell us 2,600 feet above sea level. Whoa.
Yeah. Yeah. So that means on average, it's going to be, 8 degrees cooler than the vineyards that are right by the lake.
Wow.
So that's great. That's what it looks like. You have huge pieces of obsidian that you need a bulldozer to move. It's incredible.
Holy, and this is obsidian, as I understand it, is glass that's formed from, or it's like a rock, a glass-like rock made from volcanic spill. Is that correct?
Yep.
And this was when Peter Molinar was actually, I met him on a virtual tasting when I first started doing these innocently. And he informed me this is arguably the oldest tree in California, and it's on their property.
Oh, wow.
He told me how old, and I forgot, but definitely more than 100, multiple hundreds years old. And he's one of these guys down here.
Yeah.
Whoa, they're in the middle of nowhere. Look at this.
They are indeed.
And this is just, I'm just showing pretty vineyard shots in the winter. And I love this shot of the redwoods because that's what it's all about. So tell us what you're tasting in this wine. I really want to know how you would describe this to capital C, capital M, the common man. And I'm one of them.
Okay. Well, everybody, so what are common things that we smell and taste in any Cabernet Sauvignon? So, it's a thicker skinned grape, red grape, right? Unlike Sangiovese. And because of that, you've got a lot of pigment and color that gets into the wine when you ferment the juice, and just the depth of color. and, you know, has more of a darker fruit character. Even though this wine, because it's produced from fruit grown at altitude, has a lot of tart red fruit, but it's predominantly blacker, riper fruit. And then we look for, you know, a range of herbal and almost vegetal green type notes. And here there's, you know, a really slight hint of green bell pepper and then green herbs. But this wine, which is very unusual for California Cabernet, and this is going to get back to somebody's question asked above. I think it was Jack Gonzalez. I'm probably mispronounced your name, Jack, sorry. But the difference between, you know, old world, new world, and European versus the new world, which are places where they put grapevines on the ships and the ship went somewhere and they planted them, right? Which is here, the US, South America, Australia, New Zealand, and in a sense, South Africa too, although that industry is like over 400 years old. So the reason why this Cabernet is very unusual is because it is pretty profoundly earthy. And that, you know, that reddish volcanic soil and the obsidian, you know, it really has almost a sandy, almost sandpapery middle texture to it, you know.
I'm going to
So
interrupt
you've
you
got
because when Tim says middle texture, and correct me if I'm wrong, my trick when I'm tasting wine, if I, you know, greedy little thing that I am, I want to get more depth of flavor, I hold it on my palate, you know, and I get what I call the mid palate. It's like a plumb line, like throwing an anchor over the side of a boat. And what you get is, I loved how you described, I'm taking notes, you know, I'm going to be taking notes till I leave this body, I'm telling you. Because one of my best friends said to me once, it's the only way you know how to process information. And it's true.
That's true.
But this is, you know, other than fruit, that's how you can, you know, inch towards defining the earthiness in this wine specifically, is that you have this rocky character, this inorganic character to it that's really cool. But going back to mid palate, I just hold it and all of a sudden I get the character of black fruit, dark blue fruit too, not unlike Malbec, and tannin too, for sure. But that non-fruity character.
Yeah, well, to me, it's slightly different interpretation of that. When I take a sip, and I never keep the wine in my mouth very long, I spit it out because I'm more interested in what the wine does after I get rid of it. But, you know, the mid palate, everybody, is what happens. It's like a progression. I mean, you take a sip of wine, you either swallow it or you spit it out. And initially you have all the fruit towards the front of your mouth. And at the end, you have the acid, which makes your salivary glands work. And here, the tannin. And the mid palate is everything in between. So that is a whole range of different flavors, from, you know, spices and herbs to minerals and earth and things like that. So fruit is a given, the structure is at the very end, and then it's, to me, it's what happens in between. And Jack, I want to answer your question. So the difference between old and new world styles, you know, European wines until about 1990 were grown, the grapes were grown in much cooler places. And so the fruit didn't get as ripe. You had wines with less alcohol, much higher natural acid. And more often than not, they didn't use oak on them, but they were earthy and minerally in character, as opposed to a wine, say, from Napa Valley, which is a much warmer place where grapes got riper. And so when you fermented the sugar out, there was higher alcohol and riper fruit, less of a sense of earthiness, and probably the use of oak.
Now,
so again,
oak, you're setting me up. I'm interrupting because the dude who owns this winery also owns, drum roll, a significant barrel facility in Hungary. So do we need to know about how the oak manifests differently?
Well, here we're getting a little geeky, because French oak, to me, which is what many, many people use, is not very flamboyant, you know. It is a lot of texture, it's smoky, it's toasty, it is spicy to an extent. And then we go to the other extreme, you know, and that's American oak. And that has more vanillin in the wood, it's whiter grained. And so that when you toast it, there's just more spice character. And it can be pretty overtly spicy. And everybody, American oak is bourbon. That's what bourbon smells like, right? And in between is Hungarian oak. So this is really kind of the best of both worlds because you have the structure of it and plus you have some spiciness, but it really doesn't dominate the wine.
So you just intellectualized something for me. Thank you. It's great to have friends who you learn from, in a gentle way that's not obnoxious. I have to say that because I never feel that Tim is lecturing, he's sharing. So in some respect, you're saying that Hungarian oak, even if it's new, has more of an effect of neutral French oak or used French oak barrels. Is that a okay extension?
Yeah, you know what it is, and I know enough about this to be dangerous, right? But I think, just how tight or wide grained the wood is itself. The wider the grain, you have more vanilla in, and that means when you toast it, you have more spice character. And if it's tighter grained and air dried, you have much less. And this kind of strikes a balance in between, and I think that's just the wood itself.
Now, what do we do with the tannin? I mean, it's pretty significant, even though,
Yeah.
So what's your favorite food to balance out the tannin in a wine like this?
Well, probably, beef, lamb, or vitamin P, which is pork.
Lamb. It's a vegetable in Greece. Absolutely. And I have
Yes,
to
it
remind everyone gently, this is as much of a retailer as I get because I'm really a failure as a retailer and I've spent too many years on premise in restaurants, right? But the fact that this is $30 in Chicago and $35 or $34 in Michigan, talk to that, Tim, for a minute. Why?
Well, like I said, this is one of the great unsung values in California Cabernet that more people should know, because if you want Napa or even Sonoma Cabernet that's this good, you're going to spend at least twice as much. You're going to spend $50 or $60 easily.
We have a couple of great questions. Are you looking at these? We have someone commenting that they're eating tuna, but answer the Malbec question.
Yeah, Malbec, and this is from Bonnie. Bonnie, so Malbec, first of all, Malbec is purple. Malbec is like the baseball of the red wine world because you can't break it. If it's $10 or if it's $150, it's usually good. It is rare that you taste a mediocre Malbec at any price range. But Malbec doesn't have the green character. That green character, by the way, is a chemical compound called pyrazines that's in all Cabernet family grapes. Malbec and Cabernet Sauvignon and Merlot are all in that family. And Malbec is not as tannic, And somebody, I think it was Marshall, said, yeah, it's generally more fruit forward, especially the young wines. Although I was talking to somebody the other day and, Maddie, I don't know if you've tasted them, but the single vineyard Malbecs from Catena.
Oh my God.
They're extraordinary. They're very expensive, $100 to $150 a bottle, but they are as good as any New World red
But
wines.
you know what? I'm gonna, get on the Laura Catena soapbox here for a second. But Catena is one of what I call those eeny meeny producers. You buy their cheapest wine, you buy their most expensive wine. You are taking no risk. Catena doesn't mess around. They make staggering values, and it's CATENA. And a lot of people will say Catena.
Right.
They will forgive you. They don't care. And Laura, who directs a lot of it, including their vineyard experiments, is also an emergency room doctor in San Francisco, which sounds like science fiction.
No, she's Wonder Woman. And she has a family. I mean, I don't think she sleeps.
No, you ripped the words out of my mouth. She doesn't sleep.
She's extraordinary.
So anyway, to that point, we're pivoting away from Cabernet to Malbec, but I was lucky enough to be in Argentina. I'm a little slow learner. It took me several days in Argentina and I had a quiet aha moment. Malbec, as opposed to, or, next to Cabernet Sauvignon, to me, and I'm curious to see if Tim agrees with me, I think it has just a florality. It smells like flowers.
Yeah.
Not like roses like Barbaresco does or Barolo, but more just like, violets, lilacs, something like that. Yeah. And it has this dark color that you could paint walls with. Oddly, the tannins are smoother than Cabernet Sauvignon.
Yes.
And I think it
has
the
deal about the color?
No, you're at what, 4,000 feet?
Exactly. So grape skins are like human skins and they react to high intensity UV sunlight by getting thicker to protect, the interior of the grapes. So hence why there's so much color in Malbec. you know.
So if you love big cab, but the tannin annoys you because you're not going to go and eat a piece of lamb, you know, premium Malbec may be your thing, because you're going to get that same density, but you're going to get a little bit of a prettier and easier mouthfeel, I think. This cab's drinking like, I have to tell you, I love all these wines. And the reason I know I love them, by the way, this is my stupid note to the Academy. If you're ever wondering what people really like, no matter what they're saying, look at their glasses. And my glasses are all going down at about the same rate. We are at 7:30. So I'm going to open it up to any more questions you want to ask, either in the chat room or unmute yourself. But I have to tell you, Tim, I have 2 questions I'm going to throw at you. I want to make sure you tell us about your book. I want you, because people, this is the 3rd question people always ask me, always. What is either your desert island wine or the best wine you ever tasted or your favorite wine? You know, they're all like the same question. And when did you fall in love with wine? Did you have an aha moment?
You know, really, it was in graduate school, you know, when I was age 26, 27. And Carla was working at the Earl. And, you know, I would, you know, practice a couple hours at night at the music school and then make my way down and then drink for free. It was great. She was a bartender.
God, she got you. Okay. So that's when, because the Earl, tell everyone about the Earl's wine list, by the way.
Well, the Earl at the time, I mean, this was 1981, and it was extraordinary. I mean, it had to be one of the first restaurants in the Midwest to do seasonal French and Italian cuisine. And then Steve Goldberg had been there since the beginning, which I think was 1977. And by the time I got there in 81, there were probably 1,000 wines on the list. There was 2 entire pages of German Riesling, which, you know,
the
totally
London
blew
Chop
my
House
mind.
had a similar list of Rieslings. Yes.
Yeah. And but before I, you know, and so I ended up bartending for the last 6 months that we lived in Ann Arbor with Carla. You know, I bartended with Carla how many times? Twice.
Oh, that's right. Carla was, wait for it, a professional bartender.
My wife.
Yes.
But I also worked at the Lord Fox, Madeline. So
you didn't tell me that. You know, I oh my God, I was the head bartender there. You worked at the Lord Fox?
As a bartender, yeah. And they had just an extraordinary wine list of Burgundy and Bordeaux back to the 40s, you know.
Wait a minute. What year were you there?
81. I was there, you know, throughout 81 to the summer of 82.
Well, so I have to tell you that I was the head bartender. You have to, another thing you have to have a teeny little thank you to me for. I was the head bartender at the Lord Fox my last 2 years at U of M. So we're talking 75, 76. And I took over from a guy who took a day telling me all these classic recipes. And I learned about wine for the first time at the Lord Fox. So this is a connection you and I have that was unknown to me. Oh my God. I am looking, by the way, for the picture of Carla so that we can see how we really are the same person. I think at least we're from the same clan, correct? But I don't think I can open it. I apologize for that. You know, Tim, if you were to tell consumers, you know, one thing you want to tell them, or one misconception do you think that, you know, guests have about wine or how to approach wine? I know I'm oversimplifying it, but what would you say to them?
Well, you know, the most important thing I think you can do, and now more than ever, is that you need to find a good retailer. And you need to develop a relationship with a good retailer who gets to know you, who gets to know what you like. You know, because that's what retailers do. You know, they're a good classic retailer is a filter that only presents, you know, good wines that they can guarantee or recommend without hesitation. So that way, you know, they're doing all the work up front for you. And it's not like walking into Kroger's. See, I remember Kroger's, where you've got this wall of Chardonnay and commercially produced wines, and some of it's good and some of it's mediocre and some of it's not good. So being able to go into the plum market, and everybody, I got to tell you, you know, my daughter Maria lives about 10 minutes from the plum market on the east side of Ann Arbor. And it's an extraordinary store, but you know, Jorge and the team, the wine selection there is better than any wine shop in the state of New Mexico.
Now, I have to
Period.
tell you that Jorge, by the way, is utterly and totally terroir driven. So, you know,
Oh, yeah.
that's why you
Okay.
love, by the way, I have to talk about the wine, the tasting we're going to do in 2 weeks, but you
Okay.
know, I am going to share a picture of both of us just to sort of add to, you know, how do I want to put this? I think people should be, you know, properly
Mystique.
impressed with our accomplishments and our reputations, don't you? So
Yes.
this is me digging a hole in Florida before I made it to Greece. And I'm telling you, I look at that girl and I look at the length of her legs and I look at the look on her face. Don't mess with me. I'm digging a hole and I am the same person. And tell me about this guy, Tim.
That's the birth of my alter ego. So I think that's taken in Albuquerque, New Mexico. And, you know, it's even so, the film was developed in December '63, but obviously it's during the summer. And I was 9 years old. I was 9 years old. And, you know, somebody gave me those goggles and I wore them 24/7 for weeks, you know, thinking, you know, I was somewhere between an astronaut and, you know, a Formula One
And
driver.
the teeth were coming in. Hello.
Oh, yeah. Oh, yeah. Yeah.
Catholic boy with how many brothers?
You like the high and tight look too?
Yeah,
the haircut.
no. Oh, the tie. Right.
Oh, yeah. But also, yeah.
So anyway, I thought it was important for us to share our true selves with you, but I also have to, because I think Denny's lurking in the background. Hold on, Denny. I'm going to find, if I can manage this, everyone's got to wait for me because in a couple of weeks, we're going to have Denny's garage sale, which is, yes, this is a tasting that until this year, we always did in person. And I'm trying to find it, Denny. Hopefully I'm going to find it. But are you still there? While I'm searching for the flyer, can
I'm
you
here.
tell us? Oh, great. Can you tell us about Denny's garage sale while I open the
Sure.
PDF?
Well, I just want to thank you and Tim for that. It was a really very, very interesting and enlightening presentation. And I feel like the caboose of the train coming in at this point. But, next week is the first time we're trying to do a virtual garage sale. And
week after next, February 18th.
That's right, on the 18th. And God willing, it's the only one we're going to do. I'd love to have our late summer garage sale back in the remodeled wine bar at West Bloomfield Plum. So that's all something we should be looking forward to. So anyway, in 2 weeks, we're going to taste 4 items out of the 20 that we'll be featuring at the garage sale, which will run for 10 days. And you'll be able to access and purchase wines at all 4 of the stores, which is also different. Next week, we have 4 different wine growing regions from Southern Rhone to Tuscany, Maduro, and then to Napa / Lake County in California. And I thought the interesting thing to do to give you an idea what the garage sale is all about, the retail on these 4 wines that we're going to taste is suggested at $115. The garage sale price with your 4 bottle discount for tasting brings it down to $51.30 plus tax.
But that says it all about the garage sale. The garage sale isn't just about wines that are inexpensive. It's that wines that are killer at staggering discounts, which we don't commonly do, correct?
No, these are items that a supplier, for whatever reason, is moving through. There were a lot of interesting wines that, because restaurants were closed this year for the most part, that they have restaurant items that they didn't sell, or that the item is now into a new vintage and there was some old vintage that they needed to move. So this is something that the West Bloomfield stores have been specializing in since I got there 9 years ago, and we've had fun with it. And it tends to be a sort of crazy evening. This will be a little bit less dramatic because we're going to do it online. And we certainly look forward to people's attendance, but I would say that there's an awful lot of really interesting and great wine for the money. The only
And that to
disadvantage
that
next week-
point, we're gonna have a PDF of 20 wines in addition to these 4, and those who attend the tasting on February 18th get another 10% off of the sale price, correct?
off their purchase anytime during that 10-day period. And if you like red wine, this is your evening because 16 of the 20 wines are red.
And I want everyone to notice that we have, quiet lightsabers in the background here because Denny started a Star Wars theme from the get-go when we're on the 7th garage sale. 12th, I'm sorry, X11. Thank you very much. Geez, oh, Pete, I am hopeless. But I hope everyone joins us on the 18th for the tasting. And Tim, before we all say goodbye, because it's 7:45, and I know I've got people pulling off. Will you tell us about this book that you keep wanting to write and get interrupted by other projects? Thank you,
Right.
Denny, for talking about the garage sale.
Not a
It came
problem.
from the mouth of the person who created this terrific phenomenon. Go for
Everybody,
it, Tim.
I'm just going to be Inigo Montoya and I'm going to sum up. So, I've been working on a tasting book for about 10 years and with not traveling last year because of COVID, it finally gave me the time to put it together and write parts of it. But then, I sent the outline to Madeline, and Madeline, being a lot smarter than me, said, even though you think this is for professionals, you can't control who's going to read it when it's, published. And of course she was right. So I went back through everything and I wrote author's guides for each chapter. I wrote suggestions. And so I made it more user-friendly.
For you, yes.
So it's still for people who are on the WSET or MS exam track, but it has a lot of information on tasting practices. And then there's a whole section on just, essays on wine and food and wine pairing and things like that. So it doesn't have a name yet. I'm to the point where I'm about to find a copy editor and go through the process of editing and formatting it. And hopefully it'll be out by the end of the year.
I am so grateful, that you're writing this selfishly for me, but also, the reason I feel so passionately and I really do feel this way, that you need to share it with everyone, is people are so thirsty. And when you share, you'd be amazed. You never know what's going to touch somebody. You don't know how it's going to impact them. And if they don't understand what you're talking about, they will figure it out. So, everyone's been very well mannered. I'm getting a lot of nice comments in the chat room. If anyone wants to unmute with 1 or 2 questions before we liberate Tim from us, go for it. But Tim, I adore you. You're a dear friend. Thank you for doing this.
Oh, I'm thrilled to do it, Maddie. It was a lot of fun. Yeah.
It was too much fun. I have, not only all these people that I know, but my cousin Flora is on, and she's waving. She adores champagne, by the way. At some big point in time, we should do a champagne tasting, which was the trickiest thing for me to learn how to taste. Anyone else want to pipe up with a question for Tim before he goes away?
John and Peggy are asking for my email address. John, if you go to timgaiser.com, the email address is on there. So.
And so I will send you the bio and the link to Tim's blog.
Yeah.
And then we will, as soon as Tim calls this book something, we'll let you know about it. And it will, live and breathe, I'm sure, on Amazon.com, where I will recommend it to everyone.
Okay. All right.
Thank you, Tim.
Oh, my pleasure. Everybody stay safe. Hope you enjoyed it. And cheers.
Elaine, thank you for clapping. It's always nice to see you. I didn't see you earlier on. Everyone stayed on most of the time. Cynthia, always good to see you. You're wearing a beautiful, Mediterranean blue color. Jorgito, you are very quiet, but aren't you happy that Tim loves your store? He does. He's there. And
Yes.
yeah.
Yeah.
You know what, Jorge, you get a lot of heat for loving terroir-driven European wines, but you've got a guy here who adores your selection.
Well,
Yeah,
thank you.
Jorge, I was like, every time it's like kid in a candy store, man. Incredible.
Tim,
Yeah.
you should come over more often. And I should
No,
come.
we're going to put a case of wine together and send it to him.
Yeah, please. Yeah.
Gracias.
Everyone, we hope we see you at the garage sale. Keep in touch. You can always respond to me. I'll connect you to Tim, and we will see you soon, I hope. Take care. Stay safe. I'm speaking to myself. Don't get cocky. We're still in the middle of this COVID crisis, but we will get through it. And let's hear it for the Zoom people, right?
Thank you, everybody.
Thank you. A
Salute.
bientôt.
Thank you.
Thank you, Madeline. Thank you, Tim. Thank you so much. It was great.
Maddie, love you.
Everybody
Great.
take care. Stay safe.
Bye-bye.
Bye. Thank you